Well, now that we have hollowed and put the piece back together, we want to study the head just for a moment and see if for any reason it got out of round. If so, you can take your hands and just press and bring it back into the shape it needs to be. That's one of the beauties of working with clay that is still soft. If it was harder, you couldn't do that. Now, as I was working on this, I felt a place where it gave just a little bit, a soft place. And normally that would make you a little concerned if you thought it was a little too thin here. But don't ever be. Take your tool and just the place that you felt that it was weak, just dig in just like that and press pretty hard against that, making sure that you've come to a very firm place in the top of the skull. Take a piece of clay and make a shape sort of like a little watermelon plug. In other words, it's smaller on the inside and getting larger as it comes to the surface. And probably you'd want to wet this. Let me get my spray bottle. Just give it a little bit of water there and press it in just like that. Then work this clay back into the surface. Work that plug right in. And if you have a weak place in your sculpture, that's a good way to mend it when it's a small area. All right, now that we have done the head and made sure that it was well molded there, we have to be concerned with the rest of the body and where it needs to be hollowed. Every piece has different shapes, but we see that this goes back to a very small area under here, so we can't get in from the bottom very easily. And this is pretty thick. You can't leave it quite that thick. So I think what we need to do is hollow each one of these shoulders. And to do that, you just take your wire and you cut down through the shoulder in a nice broad area, and then pull it out. Leave a little ledge also, always. All right, and then we'll take this piece. Let me get my tool over here. And we'll just mark that, just like we did the top of the head, just like that. We'll hollow this piece first, just like the top of the head. And then marking this shoulder, we'll begin to come into the head and quite deeply to where we can feel the thickness, to where we can get up into the neck where it meets the hole from this part of the head. As that tunnel came down, we want to be able to meet that, firm it up, and taking our hollowing tool, we go all the way to the table, because that air has to have an escape. Now we've gone all the way to the table. All right, so once that's done and this piece is hollow also, we spray this edge and we set it in here and we do our hatching. I'm not going to take the time now to hatch that in, but we'll hatch that in exactly like we did the head. We fit it in and get it all put back together, not like this, but like we did the head. Then we'll turn the piece and we'll cut this shoulder exactly the same way. A nice broad cut to where we'll be able to get in there. And when it's all put back together, you'll have a hollow piece with a hole that is at the bottom, and the head itself and the neck will be hollow. So having done that, we would now be ready to do all those things that an artist loves to do normally, and that is to put the finishing touches on this head. We're not going to carry it to that degree of finish, but I would like to talk to you a little bit about surface textures. All right, we'll keep this tool cleaned off by rubbing the edge of it on this on your work table, because the dry clay will pull against the surface, so you want to keep that nice and smooth. Every once in a while, just clean your tool off. So we'll take our tool now and coming on the, just hitting the surface of that clay, we will begin to tool the skin. Almost strokes like you would find that a painter uses as they put the paint strokes to enhance the surface. And that's exactly what you're trying to do, is have your strokes that are on the clay enhance the surface of the clay. They need to make a nice description of what's happening to the form, and they need to be pleasing. You wouldn't want to leave little knobs just to be leaving them for a rough texture. They need to say something. I like my pieces sort of semi-smooth. I work in a impressionistic way, even though my pieces are very realistic. I have an impressionism about my strokes, which I like, and I like that in painting also. So we just enhance that surface with our strokes. As your clay firms up and as it dries a little bit, when you make a stroke, it'll stay there. But do you see how that tooling makes a nice surface and just a pleasing surface texture for the skin? At this point, if you wanted to, you could even do something with the eyebrows. Just, draw a little indication of an eyebrow. There are all sorts of things you could do to finish this in a way that would please you, because every artist has certain ways that they like form to be finished. And so this is the basis of whatever finish that you want to do on it. Now, one of the things that I would like to say, if you have your face and your skin in a semi-smooth texture, perhaps you would like some strokes in the hair that would say that this is hair and not skin. Maybe just, let's take a little of that hair away from the earlobe. Just some strokes that make it different from the face, and also give direction to the way the hair is flowing. Something about like that. And you would work all around your piece doing the same thing. You would do it from here, just like that, making those strokes, having it come off the hairline. So we won't carry the hair any further at this point, but this is the way that you would develop then the hair. Now I want to talk to you just a bit about how you would take care of this piece while you were in between times that you work on it. It's very important that you keep it wet, as it is a water-based clay. Otherwise it will dry out too much to work on the next time. So let's talk about that just a bit now. Well, on this particular head study, we are going to close now, but we have brought it to that place where much can be done to finish out our detail on our mouth, on our eyes, refining the neck. We would take this prop out from behind the neck and make it a very interesting back of the neck, and do all those things to make it a finished study. We also need to consider that as we finish those things, that it must be dried out and fired. So once you have all the nice strokes and all the finished detail, you would let it dry out for several weeks, and then it would be fired in a kiln. One of the things that you may want to do is work on it over a period of time, an extended period of time. And if this is the case, we must keep it wet, since it is a water clay. And let's say I'm finished for the day and I want to moisten it because it's beginning to dry out. I would turn my piece and spray it just about like this. And then I would cover it with a white, well, with a baggie. It doesn't have to be white, but with a plastic bag that's used in your kitchen garbage bag. And just cover it and tuck it in just like that, all the way around, making certain that there's no place for air to get in. And this will keep it very moist. I could work on this next week if I desired. But let's say I do take it out in about a week and I work on it and then I need to work on it again. I would spray it and cover it. So you keep it covered until such time as you're all finished. All right, once it's finally uncovered, then if you would leave it in a semi-covered state for about 2 days, and then completely uncover it and let it dry for about 3 weeks. At that time, it could go to a potter who would know how to fire it in the slow manner that hand-built pieces must be fired. And so then you would have a finished piece that would be a permanent piece, even as this bust is finished and fired and has a patina. You can see the patina in the beard. And it's very hard. It's been fired to a high temperature and is a permanent piece of sculpture. So that's what you would end up with when you finish your piece entirely.